It
Okay.
works.
Well, first off, I'm not going to give those programs you mentioned,
Yeah.
although I will talk about
Fine.
Visalia
We
a little
love
bit.
fluid.
Yeah, it's okay. Uh, I'll explain all this. Yeah, there's been a little bit of activity in the Visalia 2027. The Northern Cal DX Club has started reviewing uh, requirements for the convention with the Holodome group. I guess it's the oh, what are they called now? They're it'll come to me. Um, and that's the venue where the convention will be held. It won't be at the convention center downtown. As nice as it is downtown, it's a very steep price, and we just have to move to and the attendance numbers have been on the downward ramp for a long time, so we don't really need the convention center at this time. Hopefully, we can return to a large meeting someday in the future, but it's just not today. Um, I don't know anything at all about the event next summer or spring in Santa Maria that's run by N6TJ and others. Every once in a while, there's an announcement of somebody joining their staff or somebody some vendor joining agreeing to come. But that'll be a work in progress next year. I think it'll be more contest than DXing, so it'll be different. We'll see how that goes. On the 9-band DXCC program, that was a board motion was passed to add that a new award to the DXCC program. Now, years ago, I completed 11-band DXCC, and I tried to push for a revised 5-band DXCC program to add endorsements to go to for additional band DXCCs, and not much happened. And I guess there was some interest in adding interest to the DXCC program, and the board passed this motion to add the 10-band award. I'm going to still work as hard as I can to get them to have endorsements from that for 11 or more. 11 is, I think, the limit. But if I work about 93 more countries on 432, I'll have 12-band DXCC. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the extent of that topic. I did not attend the board meeting in July. I had a bit of a health scare this summer, and it kind of kicked me out of the upcoming elections for director, vice director for the coming years. So there is a election coming up in November, and there's two candidates for director. There's Norton, and then Mr. Paquette, Rick Paquette, is also thrown his hat in the ring, and he will run as well. I won't politic here. I still wear the red badge, so I can't. But if if you have any questions about Rick or Norton, and you want to, talk to get my opinion, just give me a call, and I can tell you over the phone or in person my thoughts. But like I say, wearing the red badge, it's kind of has me having to just kind of be silent on those discussions. So let me go over this program we got for tonight. I was working on this project to give a talk at the DX University at W9DXCC on station layout principles. It was close enough to being done that I agreed to kind of dry run it on you guys tonight. I think I've done this before, use these guys lab rats to test drive some presentations. So let's see how this goes. If there's anything glaring or wrong, let me know. But essentially, what I want to talk about is, what is a ham radio station in today's world? That's kind of an evolving topic. Everybody's got something, and it's not what we used to have 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and certainly in 10 or 20 years from now, it's going to be even different. And so I'm gonna kind of try to paint a little picture about where things are going with that. And then I'm going to talk about what are the functions of your DX station, and how you might best address all of those in a emerging kind of next generation station. And then I'm going to talk about how to clean up your station uh, by using kind of virtualization, making things that don't require manual reaching out and throwing switches and doing things. A way to bring this all into a way to control it and reduce the footprint of your station in your house or in your closet or wherever you're allowed to play your hobby. And then little topics about things down the road. So radio station organization, how do you manage your pile of stuff? We all have a pile of stuff. If you don't think so, just ask your people living with you. They will have no idea what you do, why you do it, and whether you have enough stuff or not. Let me give you a good example of a good pile of stuff. A lot of you know Randy, KK7 TV, been in the area a long time, and he has always had, in my opinion, a very, very clean station. And if you look at the station layout, a couple things come to mind. One is he really, really is into high-end audio. I mean, not many people have, speakers aimed at their head, and they're right in front of them on their ham station. But if you know Randy, he's into high-end audio. And over to the right of the position, you'll see a lot of controls for the microphone audio settings. You can clearly tell he's right-handed because he doesn't have a pile of stuff on the left side of his radio station. So essentially, his approach to controlling his station is just making sure that all the knobs on the equipment are within arm's reach. I mean, this is typical. We all started with this. Um, Now, I've taken an approach in the last number of years to pack more punch into a operating position. And this is not quite my current one, but close enough to support this discussion. So what I have done, that this console that all this stuff is on, I built it 40 years ago. I built that, and it used to have like 3 shelves in the back and I would have those shelves just jam-packed with amplifiers and switch panels and transverters and junk. I mean, but today, I every so often I would go back there with a jigsaw and cut off a shelf until what it is now, where it's the only thing up there are monitors. There's no reason to have other stuff in your shack. It can be somewhere else, and you can access it virtually through applications and things like that. The other thing that's kind of I want to point out is the up top above it all is a sound bar. And this is a project I started a couple of years ago because I just didn't want to have every radio's got a speaker, and these speakers, to be good, they're large, and it just took up a lot of space. And if you put the speaker and try to throw it somewhere else, then you get audio echo off of walls, and it's just kind of doesn't sound right. So what I decided to do was to repurpose a sound bar that I had in one of my TV setups some years ago. It's a Sony bar. It's got its own amplifier and everything. You just have to feed it low-level audio. But what's cool about it, it's got 4 modes. I can operate it with analog inputs, or with digital inputs, or with coaxial inputs, or Bluetooth inputs. And so what I do is I use the various groups of radios or radios. I'll use one of those inputs. If, for example, the digital one, you can buy these media converters. You got audio coming in and digital coming out, and the same for coaxial. And so I can listen to one radio in one mode or the other one in another mode, and it just cleans up the amount of space for the audio is really reduced. The other thing is that speaker panel is aimed right at you with no opportunities for multipath. So the audio is very clean, and it's real important if you're going to use a speaker, local audio, for contesting or DXing. Echoes in your room, it just aren't good. So the suggestion here is, if you need local audio, consider a elevated speakers or an integrated speaker system like I've got here. I also use a subwoofer down below, but that doesn't get used too much unless I'm piping in the television into the audio, and then I do like the full bandwidth audio sound from Sound Blaster. But as you guys know me, this is the tip of the iceberg of the AA7A station. This is the shack, but it's not my station. We'll get to look at some more of my stuff. You've all seen my presentation on the Ned shed, which is a means of getting noisy, heat-producing items out of the shack and putting them somewhere else. And what I did is when I started building this 2-meter moonbound system is I put had a shed built to my specifications. It's insulated. I've got air conditioning, internal lights, everything I need to go in that box and fix things and make them work. And all of the heat is out there, and all of the noise of of fans is out there, and it really cleans up the space in the house where I like to operate. And also, just by moving all that high heat generating equipment out there, the load on my air conditioner in my house is substantially reduced, and it's saving me air conditioning costs. And to control my home station, I've got this a ultra wide screen format monitor, which is my primary interface on the station. If you saw a couple of slides ago, you saw my station had 3 monitors. This is the center monitor, which I use to control the shack. The monitors to the left and the right of this monitor are for accessing remote radio sites, which I don't require this ultra wide view, but enough can pack it into a standard 1080p format monitor, which is almost the kind of the standard these days for laptops and computers right now. So remote radios operate on the 1080p monitors, but then my home station uses this ultra wide, and I pack in a lot of information in this monitor, and I'll go over all of that here shortly. But if you want to know what my station is, what is the AA7A station? This is today's rendition of my station. This is what I think about when I wanted something needs to be done. Something's on the air on 160 or a 6-meter moon bounce, or some 6-meter opening to some part of the world and it's not open to here. This is my station that I would use to try to make a contact with some rare fleeting DX. In the lower left corner is the shack, which consists of the Elecraft K4D, a new edition, the ICOM IC9700, which is a really intriguing multi-band, many multi-mode of VHF radio. And I have 2 Elecraft K30s. They're actually not K30s, they're K3s that don't work right, but they work perfectly as K30s. And what those are the gateway to access and control remote K3s. To the right, lower right, is the radio ensemble that's in the AA7A shed, or Ned shed. I've got 2 HF K3 base stations, and then I have a 2-meter moon bounce, which also has a K3 with a 2-meter transverter in it as the core radio for that station. And the middle left is my cabin station. It's really not a station. There are no radios here. There's just computer terminals and remote units, remote control units. Now the NA7TV contest station on the mid right consists of 2 HF full capability stations, and then the 6-meter EME station out there. And an emerging capability is on the top, which is I'm joining supporting the development of a contest station in Maine, and there are 3 stations up there that I will at times connect to as well. So these are all the capabilities that at any given point in time I can turn on any of these links, these radio systems, and operate. This is the cabin location. What you'll notice is that the monitor is the same format as the station in the AA7A main computer. So when I come up here and I want to operate my home station, I will, essentially open a remote desktop to my station down in Phoenix, and I would see the exact same thing up here as is down in Phoenix. And then the monitor to the left is just another local PC monitor that I use to do other stuff while I'm like watching weather or checking email or other stuff while I'm monitoring my home station on the main central monitor. So that's kind of where that's going. I have a space reserved for the K40, which I've been told is due out. I think in mid-September. I just don't know what year. My hope is that it's this year. I've been told it's headed my way soon, but we'll see about that. And the other thing that is available, which is cool, is that I'm not limited to just having computer stations in my cabin or at home. I can, with the capabilities of remote desktop operating, I can access any of my radio systems using a remote desktop app, and I can run my station easily on digital modes. With a laptop with an audio interface, I can do CW, and it's kind of cool. They kind of, there's no end of the different ways you can operate radios. It's kind of a whole new world. So these are the functions in my view of DXing. These are the things you want to be able to do. One is you got to control your station. I mean, you got massive capabilities of radios, amplifiers, antennas, and you got to control it all. And what I like to do is control my station at home exactly the same way as that I would do at a remote position, like up here at the cabin, or with the laptop or tablet. I want to be able to have the same view. I don't want to have different views. I don't want to modify the layout. I want everything to be, every time I turn it on, I want it to be the same, so I can just go right to work. The most important thing of a DXer is, of course, is logging. That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to put things in the log. Whether you chase awards or not, it's not important, but it's always good to capture the QSO records in logging, and then uploading to Log of the World or whatever thing you want to do. Awards tracking is another function. Log of the World is a good way to start. But not all award systems are directly can employ the data in Log of the World. But for the DXCC program and a number of the CQ awards and others coming along, the Log of the World will be an important tool to get QSO records imported into an awards tracking process. The other thing that I do, and I'm sure many others do, is while you're using your station, you want to be doing data mining. You want to, well, where is the station I'm trying to work being heard, or when does that station normally get on the air, or what is just information is needed to support your situational awareness status. I mean, you're better off having this kind of information to know how to tactically use your station. Being on the right band, having your antenna in the right direction, being on at the right time. All that stuff is enhanced by data mining. And then propagation indices is kind of important. As we all know, the really interesting DX many times is over the pole, and it's always nice to know the state of the solar terrestrial conditions, so that you can judge whether or not you need to try, normal paths or alternate paths to make a contact. The other thing that's important these days is collaboration. CADXA is a Slack channel. Our Stafford remote group has a Slack channel. There's a large VHF community that has a massive, very busy Slack channel. So that's an important aspect of DXing these days, is essentially not teaming, but collaborating with others that may have information, and including the DX station that you're trying to work. Recently there was a 6-meter EME operation from Tomotu by Lance W7GJ, and they use an ON4KST EME channel for collaborating, and I would use that channel as well, as just to see what's going on, and also to tell whether you've completed QSOs. That's becoming a way of confirming that you've made a contact on moonbounce. And then, of course, the emerging capabilities of remote access for lots and lots of different reasons. Having your station being accessed remotely, it would have value to you and to your companions, your fellow DXers. So let's going through each of these functions. I have essentially put together a capability to provide everything I need to run my station to do DXing. So here's, in terms of station control in real time, I use Green Heron to manage rotors and coax switches. And then the the VE2 FSQ software, Win4K4 suite, also lets me control amplifiers and control the radio configuration. For example, power drive levels, modes, sometimes modes. But I could reach over and punch a button on the K4, but I can't do that in the cabin yet. I don't have a K40 up here yet. And but I can do absolutely everything that you can do on a K4 from up here using that Win4K4 suite software. In terms of logging, I use N1MM plus, and the reason, it's not a award tracking application. It is strictly a logging software. It is primarily for contesting. They do support DX logging, and I use it to the max. And the reason I use it is that I don't have to switch how I configure the station and run the station when I'm contesting as opposed to when I'm DXing. I use the same app, the same setup for everything I do, whether it's DXing or contesting. Switching between HRD, say, and N1MM, would require reconfiguring the station. And I just years ago decided I'd just adopt one and stick with it, and this has worked out quite well. Wart tracking, like I say, Log of the World is one of many. And what I do is I have a browser allocated a space on my desktop for a browser, and I use the tabs in that browser for various functions. Log of the World is one of the tabs, and I use that if I don't know if I've worked something on some band. A couple of minutes of poking around in the in Log of the World web page, you can find out what you have confirmed at ARRL. It may not tell you what card you have in the box ready to have Reinhardt check and stuff like that, but it's pretty close to telling you what your current status is of your what you've worked and confirmed. Data mining is something we all like to do. One of the if you're in the digital modes and you're chasing say Eurus at wherever he's, I guess, in 3C right now, and he'll be in 3C0 soon. And sometimes it's kind of nice to have the tools to tell you when he's switched to a band that you might need. So PSK Reporter and other applications like that give you kind of spot reports in real time. The neat thing about PSK Reporter is that it tells you geographically where these spot reports are being reported from, so that you can get an idea of how propagation might favor or not favor you at this particular time. So lots of cool stuff. Also in that window, I like to have a tab on what I like this is solarham.net, which is a it's actually solarham.com now. And it's a very complete collection of solar indices, including the solar wind and you know, and the state of the magnetic fields or the Earth, and the K index and all that stuff is available to give you an idea of what's going on in the world. And then, and as of course, Slack is the kind of emerging, the de facto, I guess, collaboration tool. But it's there's going to be a day here real soon where it's probably going to have to be replaced with something else, because they're getting harder and harder on peppering you with prompts to send them money to use this thing. And hams only like to use software that's out there when it's free. The minute you have to start paying for it, people will start trying other things. So at the moment, Slack is still free and pretty prevalent. And then remote access, which is it just kind of opens the world to this station or any station being used somewhere else. And I'm going to cover that a little bit later. But I'm going to talk now about virtualization. How do we expand your capability of your station or manage the capability of your station? And how do you clean up your operating space by sort of gobbling up what used to be manual station controls into something that could fit inside of that single desktop view of your station? That could be, and the other thing is that once you do that, then all of that capability is available not only when you're sitting in front of this monitor at home at your home station, but when you're using it remote. It doesn't work well if you got the antenna in the wrong direction. There's no way to turn it when you're 3-hour drive away. It doesn't work. So let's talk about station controls. The core part of my station is this. This is a IP power switch. It's a IP device. It's got an IP address, and it's set up to monitor a single port on the network. And so to access this switch remotely from outside of my home network, I simply point a browser at my fixed IP address of my I get Cox internet, and I have a stable IP address, doesn't change too often, and I don't pay for it to be fixed, but they just don't change it very often, so it's stable, and you can rely on it to be there when you need it. And so by pointing a browser and with the appropriate port identified in the IP address, it will connect to the browser server that's inside the switch, and from and on these outlets, I can control the power to PCs, which is really vital. It permits you to restart PCs remotely, and it does another function which I like, which is when my home PC is off and I want to turn it on. All I do is cycle the AC power to the computer power supply, and the PC is configured to boot on application of power. So to access my home station, first thing I do is I go to this IP power switch, and I cycle the power to the outlet that provides power to the PC. And in a couple of 30 seconds, that PC is at desktop, and I can then connect to it with remote access software and go on from there. The other thing I turn on and off is I can turn off K30s, and I can also start my K4 using just essentially a relay with dry contacts, which short a pin in the accessory connector to ground, which turns on the K4 relay. Turns on the K4 radio, and I can turn off the K4 radio using the VA2 FSQ software. Has a radio function that will turn the radio off. And I also found I needed to be able to cycle power to the remote rotor controls, the R221 from Green Heron. Every once in a while, those get hung, and it's always nice to be able to get them back by rebooting them. So this power switch kind of gets everything to start state. To configure this on the web page, one of the options is the outlet control, and these are the functions of each of the 8 outlets. I really need to add another one because I have a few more things I want to do. But for right now, this is the capability, and each of these are configurable with the setup. And it's always good to have these labeled correctly. So I can barely remember what I did yesterday, but I did this 2 years ago, and having the name sort of mean something will help you use it better. Now, radio control is really an emerging capability out there. It's really taken all kinds of exciting new venues, and there's more and more radios which support direct Ethernet connection, which is it's going to be interesting. But until every single thing is an IP device, we're going to have to be able to understand more than one way to or control radios, because some of your equipment will be a generation ago, and some of your equipment will be next generation. So it's good to know how all of it works. Let me try to go over a few kind of options. So here's like where it was 25 years ago. You just walk up to your radio, all kinds of buttons, knobs. You can do everything you want. And we have TV screens now in our radios, which is great. So you can do absolutely everything you want to do by just walking up to this radio and using it. Now, if you're not able to sit in front of your radio, it's got to be somewhere else. Then an approach is to have it connected to a computer with software that will can manage the radio through the USB interface. Now turns out the K4 has more than one interface. It actually has 2 USB control ports and an Ethernet port, and you can control the radio through all 3 of those ports. So it's incredibly flexible, and a lot of the new high-end radios are doing similar things. So very few people switch their brand of radios based on their serial interface characteristics. But if you're just starting out, it might be, or you're thinking about an upgrade or a change, it might be nice to understand what the capabilities are of the radio you're looking at. And you don't want to limit yourself. You want to make sure that you have the expansion capability. And I really think having Ethernet access to the radio is almost a fundamental. I won't never buy another radio going forward that doesn't have that. I think that's where everything will be at some point in time. So this is sort of traditional. When you run contests, this is what you do. You want your logging software to really know what band you're on and what mode you are. You don't want to rely on typing that in correctly at the start of a run. So having computer control of the radio is very important for logging. Now, if you're, oops, I went ahead. Now, if you're not, you want to be able to use that radio somewhere else, or you want somebody else to use your radio, Elecraft has developed this box, the K40, which is really pretty exciting to me, that I can finally have a radio connected to a real antenna up here at my cabin. I'm trying not to put up any antennas up here on my property up in Beauregard. I don't think I'll succeed in that, but my plan and the story I've told my kids who I share this cabin is that I'm not going to ever put up antennas up here. But I think I've said stuff like that to my wife in the past, and I disappointed her, so I don't make too many promises anymore. But to be able to use the K40, you have to have everything accessible on the internet, and I'm hoping to get that worked out. Now I up here at the my cabin, I'm on Starlink, and there has been some issues with connecting remotely through the Starlink system. My hope is that the reason that the K4 is being delayed, K40, is because they're still working on solving those problems. I don't want to have to try to solve them up here, but I will if I have to. But my plan is to plug that in and have absolutely every capability available on a K4, audio, keyer, jack, everything be just like you're sitting in front of the real radio. Now, the neat thing about that is that you can also share that K4 with someone else. So say I'm at home using the K4 and someone wants to get on work something on 6 meters or 10 meters or something that he can't get from his station, then I can work with that station to get their internet description set up right so they can connect right to my radio, and then we can both use the radio. I have audio at home and they have audio there, so it's becoming an interesting new wrinkle to radios anymore. It's kind of fun. Something I'm just starting to learn is ICOM remote control. I'm not I haven't been an ICOM guy for a long time, but I recently invested in the 9700, and I'm going to dive in. And as best I know, this is the best way to remotely access this radio. There is a device. It's like a hardware key and software that permits a client to access the ICOM. The ICOM itself radio has its own server, and there are 3 ports in that radio that are used for sending audio and radio control and data. So it's an emerging capability. I'm going to be experimenting with that over the next couple of months and figure out all the things you can do with that. Another approach is with Kenwood, as they have remote access. This is the 990. Brian at AA7A, he went through a trade study a couple of years ago, and settled on the 990 Kenwood. He's very, very happy with his choice. One of the many ways you can remotely control this radio is by having a nearby PC with hosting software that it connects to the radio, I think through USB, and maybe over IP as well, not sure. And then a remote user can access it having client software installed on a PC where they are, and everything you see on the front panel of that radio is available in that client software, including audio and I'm not sure how CW keying is done, but this is another way to go, and it's very exciting, and my hope is that everybody gets a chance to try this sort of thing. It's just kind of cool. Now, antenna controls are a really complicated topic, and I can almost spend an entire presentation on just how do you manage a pile of antennas remotely. What we've adopted, what I've adopted at home and what we've adopted out at the NA7TV remote site, is using green here and everywhere technology. And it essentially has a similar topology where there's a server app running on a PC that can touch things, antenna things, and then there is a client application which can connect to that server, and that client application will launch control windows like you saw on my desktop for the functions you want to do with antennas. So I'm going to go over the 2 stations I can. This is the blow up of the green here and everywhere control group that's on my home desktop, and the big map-based window is the rotor control. And a neat feature of that is that you can have you can order a JPEG. There's people who create these of the Great Circle, or the Great Circle view of the world, so you can have a view that tells you where your antenna would be aimed in that particular direction, might have coverage. Neat thing about this is to turn the antenna. There's 2 ways to do it. One is you can type in a direction up in the window up top, just to the right of the box that has 33 in it. There's a 0 in it now, but you can go in there and type in another direction and then hit turn, and then that antenna will turn in that direction. The other way to control that is with your mouse. you click inside the green wedge in that rotor window, and you can drag that wedge to the direction you want to go. And then when you unclick the left button of your mouse, the rotor software will then move the rotor to drive its direction to the direction you requested. The two windows down below are two relay controls I have in my my house. I route all of these two antennas, a Pro 67 and 6-meter Yagi, into the house, and then those relays determine whether that antenna is routed to the station in my shack or to the shed. And so I can tell, from a momentary glance where my antennas are being handled. Now, out at our remote site, we have a lot more stuff. We have the rotor control window, and you'll notice there's two wedges on there, and one of them is for each of the two rotors we have that are currently turned on in the layout we have right now. We have a third rotor that's coming online soon, but you can independently control the directions of those two rotors just as before, either typing in the number in that one box, or you can drag the pie-shaped wedges on the graphical interface to the direction you want it. Either way, there are a number of switches, discrete switches that control the routing of antennas. Each of the towers has a tribander on it, and each of the tribanders goes through a triplexer, and the output of each triplexer's 20-meter band, say, goes to a relay system, and that allows either station to grab either antenna. And so those four switches in the middle are ways for our stations to select whichever antenna they want. The other kind of cool thing are the COMTEC controllers. This is a new update that we've just installed this year, which is going to remote links to the COMTEC controlling systems. Our 80-meter array out at Safford is approximately a quarter mile from the shack. For years and years, there was a Ethernet, a Cat5 Ethernet cable that rolled all the way out. I think it's 1,200 feet from the shack to the COMTEC control box. Well, recently, the critters out there not only chewed through that cable, but they chewed through it at least two different places, and they dragged away the cable. We're used to fixing the cable, but Lee was out there and had a funny moment when he couldn't even find the cable. It had been, I don't know where it went. The aliens beamed it up or something. We don't know. And so, and this is not the first, not the 10th time we've fixed cable problems caused by critters. So we migrated to a system that Green Heron offers, which is having the control capability supported by hardware that is linked together using 2.4 gigahertz wireless link. So power to the equipment out the antenna is injected into the transmission line and then tapped off out at the far end, and that power then energizes the Green Heron base or remote unit, and then commands are sent wirelessly out to that base unit, and that base unit out there then has the relay contacts to control the COMTEC controller. So that works out really, really well. We were very pleased with that. We hope that'll improve the reliability of our system out there tremendously. And it's not for everybody, but if you've got long links or you would like to just clean everything up and cables in the yard and stuff like that, this is a way to do that. And then we also have two essentially custom antenna control systems. There's a 16 to leverage 16, actually it's a 16 by 2 antenna switch for all our beverage antennas. And then of course there's a massive control system for the 160 meter 8 circle. And those are easily managed to, standard Green Heron Everywhere application windows. So this is a lot of stuff, and it's available on every desktop that is on a PC for any of our contest stations. And we would like to kind of, and you can trim this down, the space on your desktop a little bit, because each of these, like these switch windows, those can be set up so that they only appear when your station is on like 15 meters. That 15-meter window would only pop up when you're on 15, and all the other ones would go away. So there's other things to do. We haven't quite adopted that approach yet, since we kind of like to know what the other station is doing. But that's another way you can minimize your footprint on your desktop, is by having these windows only pop up when you're on the bands associated with these antennas. Lots of stuff. And then remote access. This is a topic that is being talked about a lot. You've probably been hearing a lot. I'm going to talk about two different types of applications. The one is Tight VNC. This is free software. And it is, in my mind, the simplest. If you have fixed IP addresses, this is your baby. All you have to do is have a unique port number for every position, every PC in a network, and have your router set up so to pass port forward those ports to each of the PCs with the associated port number. And that way a client can access any of the PCs using Tight VNC. One nice thing about it is that Tight VNC scales infinitely. I can add and add and add stations. There's no end. Maybe when I get to 64,000 port numbers, I might hit an end, but I doubt I'll get that far. And it's free, totally free, well supported. It's been, that's what our primary system is out at Safford. Now, if you can't control your IP address, there's two ways to go. One is to subscribe to a DNS another function, which is to have your ability to find your path to your desktop PC and your distant remote network using a technology. I haven't gotten to it. I don't have that in this coverage here yet. But the other approach is by using one of many remote desktop applications like AnyDesk. That's pretty popular. Essentially, the core of it is there's out there in the world somewhere, there's a server, AnyDesk server up in the upper right. When you install AnyDesk on your PC out at your remote site, when you install it, it contacts the server and is issued a number, your access number. It's currently a 10-digit number that you need to know to get to that desktop. And then if you want to make a connection to that desktop, get remote access running to that desktop on your client position on the right, you just have to launch AnyDesk, type in the code for that site you want to connect to, and then if you're set up with password control, passwords are set up, you can access it directly. If you don't have passwords and you want to only enable people to access your PC if you are there to monitor what they're doing, then you don't have password control. You would have to manually accept a connection. But for a remote site, there's nobody there to do that. So we have it set up to run remotely with a password system. And it's also, for a remote site, it's always good to have two different ways to connect to the site, because every once in a while something goes wrong, like AnyDesk. Every once in a while that AnyDesk server goes down and nothing happens. Several contest weekends in the middle of the night or something like that, that server goes down and you're done. And you don't know when it's going to come back. So that's one of the advantages of the Tight VNC. You're not dependent on something like that. I also heard that AnyDesk server is actually in Russia. So if that bothers you, that's another thing to worry about. Okay, so one of the neat new things coming down the road the application of mumble audio to ham radio. Now, mumble audio is a technology that is come out of the online gaming community. The need for a low latency audio channel between operators of role playing shoot 'em up software needed something that had a low latency, high performance audio capability. And Mumble has evolved from that. It undergoes a lot of updates. It's a very active community that uses it. So I think it's there to stay, and it's really has a lot of power, and it's gonna offer a lot more opportunities for radio use. The basic idea is that that there needs to be a server that is out there, and one approach is to have a server, and there are many of them, where you can either use public servers and borrow them. But the problem with that is that people can join your group and play radio along with you, and that's not necessarily what you want. Or you can pay a very modest monthly fee, like $10 a month, to get your own secure channel on that server, so that you have password control for access, so you can then limit access to those on your team. We use this for the rig in the box work for DXpeditions. It was very heavily used when we went to Jarvis this past August, and excuse me, July, and it's just it's changing the game. With Starlink, the challenge is finding the right combination of where the server is in the world to use the Starlink well. And as you may or may not know, the access to the Starlink satellite, any one of the birds, is from a gateway that's in view of that satellite when it's overhead. So the network connection to the world is dependent on where that Starlink gateway is physically. So when you're running an operation out in Jarvis, in the middle of the Pacific, it's good to have rely on a Mumble server that's sort of close to the uplink gateway that serves that part of the Pacific. And I think we found we needed to. Plus, there's also delays across the network to where your remote operators are. So a lot of some amount of effort was spent in the days and weeks leading up to the Jarvis operation to study, well, what combinations of, where is the server what's the best server to use for remote operators that are in Europe or Asia or North America. So, it's not a plug and play just yet. It takes some testing and some evaluation to make sure you know exactly how to configure your. But that's for the very few instances when you're going to need a system like that. It's just it's a little complex, but when you get it right, it gets very, very low latency audio. CW is workable. It's close to being perfect. Sideband is a bit slower, but there are some technologies coming down the road which will help that. And I'm not going to get into that today, but right now, for digital modes, it's perfect. For CW, it's good, but you have to practice. You have to make sure that you can run a pileup correctly with the modest amount of delay that is involved in a satellite connection. But for a lot of us, we can use the technology right now at home. The Mumble group offers a Mumble client software that you can install at home. So, and I have this set up now and running, and Brian has this set up and running at his station at home. Essentially, my main PC, AA7A PC, has a connection to my K4 radio. I have Mumble server installed on that PC, and then I have it configured to listen for connections from on a specific port that's configured in both the software and also having port forwarding associated with that in the router. And then from at my up here at my cabin, I'll have set up essentially a client operation where I'll install the Mumble client software and then configure it to find or connect to my personal Mumble server. And once it finds it, then every audio channel on my radio or every radio that I have connected to my local server, I can then listen to the audio up at my cabin. So I can do CW up here right now with my K4 without the K40. What's cool is I could use any radio. I could use any legacy radio out there. It does not have to have a USB interface. All you need to do is to have the audio from that radio, both mic audio and speaker output, go through a sound card or to and from a sound card, and then have that connected to the PC and managed by the Mumble server as well. And what's kind of cool is that it doesn't have to be an HF radio. That could be a Bofong handy talkie. Bofong handy talkies do Vox. So you could stick a Bofong handy talkie next to a Raspberry Pi PC with Mumble server on it and have that handful of electronics sitting on a shelf next to your club's repeater out on some hilltop or whatever, and you could actually use that repeater anywhere you want from any place you can get to the internet using your client PC with that client application on it. So lots of the mind wanders when you think of all the options available to use configure radio systems using these modern capabilities. So if you're ready, Brian, maybe you can take it up from here and demo your station.
Yeah, I've got the Mumble client going right now. So I built my own server at home, and I'm running a Raspberry Pi. It took me about 20 minutes to set it up and get it working, and it works quite well. In fact, the first time I used it for anything, I did a CWT on the Wi-Fi from inside the FBO in Scottsdale Airport while I was waiting for my passengers to show up, and managed to work 30 people in 20 minutes. So worked pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and turn the audio on so you guys can all hear it. I got it connected to 30 meters right now for FT8, and that's the audio coming through right now.
Can you stick your microphone up towards your speaker, your PC?
You hear it? Can you hear that?
No, I'm not hearing it. This is unrehearsed, people.
Yeah, it was there. There it is now. That's 30 meter FT. Probably need to do one other thing here. All right, yeah. So that's going through right now, nice and loud. I've actually done a couple of things with it recently. And I was able to, I was waiting for Ned when we met for lunch yesterday, and I connected my laptop with my phone via a hotspot to my station at home. And while I was waiting in the parking lot at noon, I did the CWT sitting in a vehicle with my laptop and managed to work 35 queues in 20, 30 minutes. It wasn't perfect. There was a little bit of internet QSB periodically, and I had one disconnect, but it came back. The interesting things I've learned is if you're using a remote desktop, I use TeamViewer because that's what I had and it still works and I don't have to pay for it yet. But sometimes if the remote viewer drops out and Mumble doesn't, when you reconnect, there'll be a significant delay between what's happening on the screen and the audio that's coming through. And if you just disconnect from Mumble and reconnect, they sync back up again and it's not as bad. But it works, and the easiest way I can title this is if you have all the equipment, if you can actually set up a complete remote station for under $100. The Raspberry Pi I had was sitting on the shelf. It's got an SD card in it, so it took nothing to program it. A little bit of work in the equipment, and I have much different ways that I can control the station. I can connect remotely using the Kenwood client server to my 890, or I can go and use the remote desktop viewer and connect everything that way. Kenwood does have a VoIP server that you can use with their software that's built into the radio. But the first time I used it, it wasn't really good. There was a lot of lag, and I wasn't sure where the server was. So I ended up using the Mumble, and the Mumble's been rock solid. So I'm probably going to experiment with the Kenwood VoIP some more. But right now, it's one of those, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So I'm going to stick with the Mumble for the most part.
Yeah, so we studied audio distribution leading up to the Jarvis operation. We looked at an app called Sonobus, which is a TCP connection on the internet, which is guaranteed delivery. And that comes out of the collaborative music, creation industry, where artists in various physical places can share audio for their purposes. But it has there's a one knob that's very, very important, which is a knob for quality. And if you start having dropouts, you want to increase the quality knob a little bit, but the price you pay is for delay. And I tried installing a Sonobus out at our Safford site, and we had just a tremendous number of dropouts for low latency settings. And so when I cranked up the quality to get it to as I finally could tolerate it, the delay was almost a second, which for almost anything, it's too long. For any, DXing and contesting requires, very, very, very short delays in audio. The shortest delay in audio that you have to have is the feedback from sending a CW with a paddle. Now, if you don't have very, very low latency audio for that path, you will probably send gibberish on CW. So Sonobus has a place if you have, fiber connections with incredibly high bandwidth, it's fine. But if your, Safford is off the beaten path, it's not nowhere close to fiber, and there's some challenges in getting avoiding dropouts in the interfaces between the island that we live in, the internet island we live in Safford, and the rest of the world. And so we rely on the other mode, which is UDP, which is not, there's no confirmations in UDP. Audio packets are sent and sent in an order. The receiving end might get them in the right order, it might not. Some may be missing, but there's no protocol for filling in gaps in the audio. So you'll hear these little ticks or short times when there's no audio, often when you're using that UDP-based audio transports, but the delay is very low. It's as low as you can go. So we struggle at times at Safford on those dropouts. Normally they're pretty heavy when there's sports events going on, or other things like that. But on weekends, the background traffic, the industry traffic is low, and we generally get better audio on weekends than during the week. So we're fortunate for contesting that it works out that way. But sometimes it's just pretty bad, and it doesn't matter whether you use Mumble or a remote rig interface. It's the same problem. It affects both of them the same. So, but that's kind of a new thing. Another thing that's coming out, I don't have any slides on this, is a paddle.
Hey, Ned,
Yeah.
we're 7 minutes from getting thrown out of the building.
Oh, my wrong. Okay.
Excellent
Okay.
So I need to cut everything off at this point.
Okay.
But excellent presentation. We're going to skip questions at this point because we've got one or two other things to go over.
Okay.
But thank you, and we will have you back to do probably a follow-up on this kind of stuff if that will fit your calendar somewhere down the road.
Yeah, yeah. I'll demonstrate CW and this
Okay.
next time we do this. All right, good enough.
And anyway, thank you. Everybody, quick break for cookies. We've got 6 minutes.